Thank you so much for staying with us on all of our platforms, and we're grateful to you to keeping faith with us, and I'm glad to welcome you to another special edition here on Joy 99.7 FM and also on the Joy Prime channel and Joy News. We're also happy to be with all of our friends who are joining us from all over the world on YouTube, and this is the longest running program on this 30-year-old network. It's been 30 years of Joy, and today we're glad to be associated with an organization that is also celebrating a similar milestone, which is even bigger in the sense that they've chalked 5 decades of existence. And I'm talking about the legendary and very well established Sports Writers Association of Ghana SWAG Awards. Just in case you do not know, the SWAG Awards is the longest running award scheme in this country, 50 years. And for 50 years, they've been running so strong and have grown a very credible platform that has been controversy-free and has been very, very effective in terms of giving big accolades to our sportsmen and women and administrators, and been the major recognition platform for sport in this country. Well, some have come, some have gone, but as we speak in the year of 2025, fate has it that the legendary Kwabena Yeboah, a journalist of many years who has grown an amazing track record and is also running one of the longest running sports programs on television with the national broadcaster GTV, is my guest today. The president of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, Kwabena Yeboah, makes a return here to the special Joy Sports link for this very special edition after so many years. Writer, thank you so much.
Thanks, lad.
I now realize why it rained during the week, because I realized that some surprise rain came, because we haven't seen Writer on this show for ages. Good to have you here.
Nice,
Good to have you
nice,
here.
good.
Let's begin, before we get into the swag issues, let's begin with you. I mean, the other day I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I said to him, look, it's a big privilege to sit with you because I grew up on your content, I grew up on your voice, I grew up on your presentation, and today I also find myself in the same space. And you're still running strong, wearing the nice suits and the nice ties, every other Monday evening. This is something else.
Well, I think I must give thanks and praises to God for giving me a job that I love doing. I don't even call it a job. It's more of a hobby. I enjoy what I do. So anytime I'm asked this question, I talk about the fact that this is divine intervention. Because growing up, I never planned of entering journalism. I didn't even know about that. As an Nkoko boy, I didn't know what journalism was about. My entire dream was about law. And I was fortunate to have parents who lived in the UK. So my daddy lived all his life in Manchester and got me a school in Manchester. Tickets were brought to me. At that time, the ticket was 6,000 cedis those days. And I remember my daddy giving me £30 to pick bus from London to Manchester. I went to the British embassy for a visa. For some strange reason, I decided not to go. My daddy never forgave me for that. But I think as a person of faith, God was preparing me for this job. And I do not regret at all. So for someone who was so keen of studying law, suddenly finding myself practicing journalism, sports journalism specifically, I can only say that as divine intervention. And the
divine intervention indeed. But before you go into the beautiful thing, Writer, I think you probably would have made a fine lawyer. I'm sure your age mates and your colleagues and even journalism say this to you all the time. I mean, I can imagine you going through the seasoned legal training traditions in the United Kingdom, from the Middle Temples to the Inner Temples and Gray's Inn, Lincoln's Inn and all of that.
I can understand that. I remember having an interview with Kwabena Yeboah about 2 decades ago when he was at Radio Gold. And I raised the same issue and somebody said, it's not too late. They can still go and practice law. But I think that we cut in different forms, different shades. And I want to stick to sports journalism. It won't be too bad. Also, adding the legal aspect. But at the end of the day, I think I enjoy what I do. But what many people do not know, I think a few people recollect my days as a print journalist with the all sports newspaper. That was as far back as 1979, 1980.
But I was still not born, by the way. No.
but that was more of, I didn't know that I was even going to take it seriously moving forward. I just enjoyed writing for the paper at the time until I started taking it seriously. And then I joined a paper called Sports and Lotto. That would be around 1980, 81. And then I founded the Guide, Sports Guide, which metamorphosed into Daily Guide. And then set up my own newspaper, the Africa Sports, for a very long time until it fizzled out. Now you don't find any sports paper on the market. It's a long story. The electronic media is taking over. And then I transitioned from the print media to the electronic, specifically GBC. And it's a reason during the Sports Award, this President's Award is going to a personality who will be chucking 90 years on the day, Henry Ako. We call him Koche. He, in quote, discovered me and discovered quite a number of us. So I used to play table tennis every afternoon at the Accra Sports Stadium when he came there.
Dramani Hall.
Yeah. That's Dramani Hall. And decided he needed me on TV. I wasn't too sure whether I was cut for that job. So I had to go and speak to Lotin Akayesu, who was then the FA chairman at the time. And I said, I wasn't too sure whether I could do it. And he encouraged me to go there. So Henry Ako at that time, in quote, discovered quite a number of us. So Moses Formani was brought on board. Kwakufu Swasari was brought on board. Comrade Japan was brought on board. Papa Pencil was brought on board. And Safa Babese, may his soul rest in peace. So Henry Ako Koche discovered all of us at that time.
Wow.
And we started, at that time, punditry on TV. But let me say this, not many people are even aware that Comrade Japan,
Engineer Kwabena Yeboah,
Engineer Comrade Japan, the politician, he was so much into sports at the time.
Yes, I remember.
And hosted Sports Allies for some time.
Yes, I remember very well.
And he introduced punditry on TV. Many people didn't know. I think he had to pick the idea from the UK. So he came down and felt that before matches, we could preview those matches. So we started it all around 1990. And then he was the host at the time. No, he was not. It was Edward Fachi. Because those days, in quote, young people were not allowed to host programs. So Eddie Fachi hosted the program. Brilliant, brilliant leader, Eddie Fachi. So Comrade Japan was on the panel, together with myself, Carl Tufo, and Papa Pintel. And shockingly, Papa Pintel at a point was getting off the program because he had predicted Cameroon would lose to Argentina. That was in 1986. No, 1990.
1990 in
Argentina
Italy.
had won the World Cup in 1986, led by the legendary Diego Maradona. 1990, they were the defending champions.
Yeah, I remember the pre-match formalities and all the antics that Maradona did with the ball.
That's right. Against Cameroon, and Papa had predicted that Argentina were going to beat Cameroon. And we all know the story.
Then it ended up 1-0 against Argentina.
Absolutely, Oman Biak. And Argentina lost by 1 goal to 0. And Papa Pencil became public enemy number 1. And a whole editorial was written on him that he was anti-revolutionary, that he didn't understand the African dream, the Pan-Africanism he just didn't understand. So he was kicked off the air. I mean, that's how far we have come. These days, people go on air and say all manner of things.
And they come back and apologize.
Freedom of speech, and for just predicting. And any neutral, objective, principled pundit would definitely go for Argentina, who are the defending champions. Not just defending champions. Maradona was at his peak.
Exactly.
With Buruchaga and all those players. Who was ever going to predict for Cameroon? But he was kicked off the program for making that prediction. We continued, we protested, but nobody would listen to us, but we continued. And Comrade Japan was absolutely brilliant until he left the scene around 1994 when I took over on Sports Highlights. And this
here
is where
we
find
are.
ourselves, yeah.
Amazing, amazing. The upward surge of new media, social media, digital journalism, and how it has fizzled out some forms of sports news consumption and all of that. That also, I mean, we're just reflecting on it off air, and it's just amazing the way things are done so differently, and now news is consumed faster because of technology, and you see digital media at the heart of it.
The times have changed. I mean, if you talk about SWAG, for instance, SWAG, when I joined SWAG, we're no more than 20 people, the whole nation, because basically the print media. And if you didn't belong to the print media, of course, you were not even allowed. You didn't have that space. Of course, we had the likes of Joe Latte, who was at GBC, and Alabi, local, he was like running commentary at GBC. Just a few of them, but it was basically the print media. And then over time, we had the proliferation of radio, which changed the dynamics of journalism in this country. And then social media, new media. So the terrain is completely changed. And there's a reason you don't find any sports paper on the market as we speak. Because it's either online or there are bloggers. Times have completely changed. And I think, well, the world is not static, so you move with the times. And we accept that. So SWAG itself is gone through all those phases. So instead of SWAG members just coming from the print media, now it's more of the electronic chaps. And the face of SWAG is completely changed.
Well, if you just joined us, we're having this conversation with the legendary Kwabena Yeboah. He is the president of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana. We're celebrating 50 years of the SWAG Awards. It's the longest running awards platform across board in our country, Ghana. And in a couple of days, the whole nation will come together with dignitaries from all over the world, including the president of AIPS. He will be joining us here as we give honor to whom deserve it, over the last sporting year and also over this 5-decade period. So it's a big milestone for Kwabena Yeboah personally and also for the whole organization. But we're starting off the conversation digging into the past years and how sports journalism has evolved. Kwabena Yeboah has been telling us about the experiences of the national broadcaster, his life in print before zooming in there. And it's just amazing how, this conversation about new media and how it has changed the face of things and, changed the way we even consume news has happened. Writer, the bit about professionalism and how it looks like new media may have brought with it that baggage which we all need to deal with. Because back in the time when you were active in print, and anybody who did print before doing, broadcasting and other forms of electronic would go through several processes before the newspaper goes to bed.
That's great.
Now, somebody has a phone, they come, they write a bit of wrong grammar with, some wrong designations in there, and they put these videos out there, and, that is not to say that's not what's happening every day, but we have these incidents and all of that. And it looks like that's baggage that has been brought with new media.
Well, it's a challenge the sports writers have decided to confront. And only a couple of days ago, the president of the AIPS, which is the umbrella body of all sports journalists around the world, Gianni Mello, will be coming to grace the occasion for us. He raised the issue, the importance of bringing in all the content creators into SWAG for some form of training, because it's very, very important. As you rightly pointed out, in the past, we all went through very, very rigorous training. And apart from that, you had your editors, your sub-editors, so your write-ups even went through scrutiny before the final consumption by the consumer. So it was a very, very strict regimen. Times have changed. And it doesn't mean that we no longer have the professionals. I think journalism, sports journalism these days, is more dynamic, is more vibrant, but there are excesses we have to deal with. And that is what SWAG intends to do. Because of that, we have encouraged all these content creators to belong to SWAG, so we take them through training processes. For example, when I took over as a SWAG president, one of the things I said was that my tenure was not going to be defined by just the award ceremony year after year, by the training programs that we offer, our members. So we started by roping in all members across the nation. In the past, sports journals were just limited to Accra. So we had to go on a nationwide campaign. We've been to the Ashanti region to organize the Ashanti group. We've been to the Eastern region. We've been to the Northern region, the Western region, the Central region. So we have branches across the length and breadth of this country. And what we have done is to organize training programs, and we've been privileged to have the support of the corporate world. So we've been to all these regions to organize training programs. We've had the likes of Kweku Sechado to educate us about the tenets of the profession, about press law. We've had the former president of the Ghana Bar Association, Abuafo, educate us. So every now and then we have lecturers and personalities to come and lecture us as we organize programs. Not just that. The AIPS has programs for journalists. So quite a number of our members have benefited from these programs. A number of them have been to Brazil, to Uruguay, to Argentina, to England on a regular basis to bring them to that international level, because times have changed and we cannot allow those who haven't had that training, we can't leave them behind. So it's a major, major responsibility and a vision that I carry, and I'm sure together with our leadership, to ensure that we bring everybody on board. It's not going to be easy because, as you rightly said, because it's a voluntary organization, it's not everybody who has decided to join us. So we keep encouraging. And in the next few days, for instance, we scheduled a meeting with the content creators to bring them on board. So when our international president comes to town, we intend meeting them to ensure that there is a strong level of discipline and dedication, commitment to the profession, so that you don't just believe that you're just there to create content, but it comes with responsibilities. Because without that kind of training, not many of the members are even aware of what constitutes the press law. So what constitutes libel? What constitutes slander? Many of the guys, because of the lack of training, do not even know. So they go on air, for instance, and call somebody a thief, that you're a thief. They don't even know that the onus of proof lies on you. You can call somebody a thief, but once you are dragged to court for defamation, for slander, it's not a question of whether you think you are right or wrong. The onus of proof is on you. But I'm sure that some of these excesses are committed because they do not understand, what it takes to really get out there as a top professional. So that responsibility lies squarely on our shoulders to ensure that we bring everybody on board for that level of training locally and internationally.
Well, talk about those who have trained. I mean, you mentioned good old Kweku Sechado. Kweku Sechado is also one of the voices that have contributed greatly to our platforms here at the Multimedia Group. And he used to say something in some of his interviews. He used to say this about you, that when in the early years, anytime he wanted to have big interviews and mention, he wanted to interview the, quote unquote, the big people in our society, he had you to hold his hand and take him along. And that brings me to the question of the fulfillment that one gets from sports journalism, because you have rightly mentioned that law was something you projected and it beckoned at several stages of your life, but you decided to stay focused on sports journalism. The element of networking that sports brings you and fulfillment, tell us your version of it.
It's quite interesting. Kweku keeps telling this story.
Yeah.
And I think on an occasion he went to Legon for a lecture, and he was asked who inspired him in his life as a journalist. And he said many of the students were expecting to mention some high-profile names abroad. So when he mentioned my name, they were a bit surprised. And he came and told me how I would hold his hand to personalities like Asad Mala, Mr. Kodoko, and then Jay Kufo those days, because Jay had become the chairman of Asante Kodoko those days. So talking about networking, I remember His Excellency Jay Kufo, former president of this land, when he decided to he had a vision of becoming the president. And he also loved football, and then decided to head Asante Kodoko. But I do know that his knowledge at the time probably wasn't very, very deep. And I really, really had great affection for the gentle giant. I really, really loved him. I've loved him all my life.
We all do.
So absolutely. I mean, such a wonderful personality.
Yes, exactly.
So I would go to his house almost every single morning to talk to him about sports and what he was getting into. And he really, really appreciated the advice I was always giving him. So he decided, as a chairman of Kodoko at the time, almost all the trips, his trips had to be with him because he needed me very, very closely to continue advising him. I remember on one of such trips, we went to Algeria, Kodoko against JSK. And when we got there and he saw the infrastructure of JSK, their hotels, their training facilities, their pitches, he came to me and asked me, it's like, Kwabena, we muna nyom bebo. And now we meet you. You see, we'll be playing them. We can handle them. And that day we lost by 2-0. We won the first leg by 1-0. So
they have to progress. Yes.
And we went to places like Sierra Leone, like Morocco. And it was during his time that I remember he organized what we call the chartered flight. We went to Morocco. I'm sorry, but we traveled with about 100 fans. Only one returned, unfortunately. So I had a good time with him. And I learned a lot from the former leaders, especially of Asante Kotoko. And I remember a personality like Sims Kofi Mensah, who took over the team from 1980 to 1983 when Yeboah took over. I was always in his office. What many people didn't know was that the great Ohinijan, he had contracted Ohinijan to his office, and Ohinijan was helping him run Kotoko. Not many people didn't know. And it was such a successful reign. Before he took over, hearts were constantly beating Asante Kotoko. Those were the days of the fearsome fivesome. And I was privileged. I was then a ball boy of Asante Kotoko from 1974-75 to about 1978-79 when hearts were constantly beating Kotoko. The fearsome fivesome, the great Mohamed Polo, Anna Seydu, Mama Kwa, Robert Hammond, Peter Lamte. Kotoko simply could not stand them. Constantly they were beating Kotoko until Sims took over and decided to change the face of the club. So he roped in players like Kigi from Acotex, Ohine Basian, and then he brought people like Opokunti, Albert Asase, Kofi Badu, Francis Kumi. And that was the first time, after that recruitment, it was the first time Hearts lost by 3-0 to Kotoko at Accra Sports Stadium. And that is how Kotoko started winning the league from 1980, 81, 82, and won the cup in 1983, 84, won. So I've had that relationship with them. I had a relationship with almost every Kotoko leader. And so I learned a lot because I would go to them, find out precisely what they were doing and how they were running the club, the difficulties, how they were resolving problems. So I wasn't just writing, but in the process, I was also learning. And then there were some coaching courses I also attended. I remember when Maroski came to Ghana to handle the likes of Osam Dudu and Coach Afrani, I would sneak through and go and sit in class and learn some of these things. It's always important because as a sports journalist, it's important to understand the game, understand what you are reporting, so that you have a comprehensive idea of precisely what you are doing. So it's not a question of, it's not a part-time job, it's a professional job. And you must carry the game to your listeners or your viewers for them to appreciate what you're doing. If you don't have a deep understanding of the sport, you will be misreporting.